Hello, and welcome to Lockdown Radio. On today's show, I'm going to be reading an article that was actually emailed to me just the other day. Very interesting article, which is kind of trying to explain what's happening with, COVID 1984 and that type of thing. The title of it is Technocratic Global Capitalists Are Taking Advantage of COVID-19. This is an iAffairs article, I guess. So let's go ahead. Let's just make sure everything's, good. Okay. So let's go ahead and open that up. Let's see here. So, Technocratic Global Capitalists Are Taking Advantage of COVID-19. July 22nd, 2020, by Patrick Kennedy. So written back in the summer. So who is Patrick Kennedy? First of all, that's what I wanted to look at. He is an MA student. Let's just go right to the thing. So I don't know what that means. Probably a master's student, I think. Maybe that's what that is, an MA student in political theory at Carleton University. So I think that's right here in Canada, right in Ottawa. So Patrick Kennedy. So let's begin. Concerns about a rising far right during the COVID-19 pandemic have been expressed in various media outlets. While internet extremism is concerning, many of our technocratic leaders have escaped scrutiny, and they are the ones with the power to make decisions. Most people have been fairly eager to make sacrifices for the common good so that we can get through this with as little suffering as possible. Unfortunately, history shows us that changes made in the wake of defining moments of history tend to stay for the long term. People take advantage of crises for their own benefit, so it is necessary to be cautious of what changes we are willing to accept. Very true. Very true. What else he says? So he starts by saying a rising far right. So he's in the University of Carleton, so he's probably a little more left-leaning, but so far he's being pretty fair to all sides, I think. So I like this so far. In an article for The Times, which presents references to George Orwell's 1984 as cliché, David Cameron's former speechwriter, Claire Foges, I think it's Foges, it's Claire Foges, so it's either Foget or Foges, expresses her regret that Western nations have been somewhat more restrained in the adoption of surveillance technologies than Hong Kong, with its mandatory wristbands, Taiwan, with its electric fence phone tracking system, where those in isolation are visited by the authorities if they turn off their phone, and South Korea, which pools data from credit cards, mobile phones, and CCTV cameras to track its citizens' every move. She warns against being fooled by civil liberties lobby into thinking that such measures might constitute an infringement on people's privacy and an overstep on the part of the government in its alliance with corporations. Edward Snowden, a national security agent whistleblower who was forced to leave his home country in order to avoid harsh prosecution by the Barack Obama administration, is dismissed as the patron saint of the paranoid. Okay. So Claire Foges is strongly against people resisting new surveillance. She thinks that we should just adopt whatever surveillance technology comes down. So I should probably look into Claire Foges quickly, actually. Should do that, because she sounds very disreputable already. let's see, Claire, Clare Foges, Foges. Let's see what she looks like and if it's the same one. Claire Foges. University of Southampton. Could be her. Columnist for the Times. Yep, that's her. Let's take a look. I should really get a Twitter profile. Everybody's on Twitter. Yeah, she's young, good-looking. I thought she was like an old, crusty old woman when I first read that Claire Foges. So what is up with her? Why does she want everybody to adopt all of this surveillance stuff? So she's Brexit, maybe? I don't know. Claire Foges. She's a Brit. Who cares? Columnist for the Times, founder of Fine Line London, author of Kitchen Disco, former number 10 speechwriter. So she was writing speeches for David Cameron. Okay. Anyway, she expresses her regret that Western nations have been somewhat more restrained in the adoption of surveillance technologies, like Hong Kong with its mandatory wristbands. I didn't even know they had mandatory wristbands. I'd like to know a little bit more about that, too. What is that? This is where so I'm still working with no producer here, doing all this myself, typing everything in, so bear with me. Mandatory wristbands. Mandatory. We're getting way away from the original topic here, but I think it's worth it just to check a few of these facts as we go. Mandatory coronavirus. People tracking wristbands tested to enforce. So that they say in South Korea, Hong Kong use electronic wristbands. CNBC. Hong Kong is putting electronic wristbands on arriving passengers to enforce coronavirus quarantine. Okay. That's an interesting... Yeah. I mean, it's not on the people who live there, but, you know... So that would be worse. I thought it was this... All the citizens of Hong Kong had to wear these mandatory wristbands. Anyway, moving on. So Claire Foges also dismisses Edward Snowden as just paranoid. Okay. So she's picking some pretty big fights there, I think. I think she's definitely, out of her weight class in that department. Edward Snowden would probably destroy this fucking woman. Let's see. Even concerns expressed about the announced British tracking app by the former head of the British spy agency, MI5, are considered out of date because people commonly provide their data anyway by using technology owned by big corporations. Foges is right to note that usage of the internet, once considered a great leveler, now means selling yourself to corporations. Rather than using this fact as a jumping-off point to criticize surveillance capitalism, she uses it as a justification for a kind of authoritarian digital technocracy. Given the existence of corporate data hiving, Foges argues it would be nonsensical for arch-civil libertarians to convince us to not also have the state data hive. The reality is, however, that the state and the corporations work together to meddle in people's lives and move us towards a techno-dystopia. Well, I feel it. I definitely feel that. So one interesting thing that was mentioned there that I wanted to go back to was data hives, corporate data hives. Let's open up a new window here again and check out that. What is a corporate data hive? You can see how having a producer would make this quite faster, more seamless. It would be far more entertaining. It'd be less frustrating for me. I don't have to sit here and type everything. Corporate data hives. Corporate data hives. Like a beehive. Enterprise AI solutions. So there you go. That's what it's all about. It's all about tracking and figuring out what everybody's doing at every waking second of life and predicting what we're going to do. You know, there's going to be a lot of predictive technologies. And a lot of these predictive technologies may become, you know, it may become a self-fulfilling prophecy if you try to avoid something and then you end up steering towards another direction. And then maybe they wanted you to go that way. So what can you do? I don't know. Can you get away from technology right now? Can you just live in the woods still? Am I still allowed to do that? Probably not. They probably want to put a wristband on you if you live in the woods now. Let's go back to the article. Very interesting stuff. A lot of side peripheral things to look at from this article because I'm not aware, because I'm an idiot. I don't know what half of this stuff means, so I have to look it up as I go. But so far, he's kind of debunking this Fogues woman who is in favor of surveillance technologies being more used and integrating. She probably wants Google to run the world. It's probably what she wants. She wants to buy everything from Amazon and Google will, you know, do everything else. That would be perfectly fine for her because it suits her. She doesn't care about small business. She doesn't care about any of that stuff. That's what a lot of these people want. They don't care about freedom. They really don't. So here we go. The Donald Trump presidency saw the creation of a little-known government agency, the National Security Commission on Artificial Intelligence. So that's what the whole article is really about here, is this agency. So they're making it sound like this is something that Donald Trump wants to do. That's an interesting take too, because it's a little, you know, I feel like there's definitely things that people who are pulling strings even above Donald Trump. I really do. Not that I want to, I don't know, maybe he's right in on it, but I don't see Donald Trump as an evil genius. I'm sorry. I know some of you do who are listening to the show, but I don't. But anyway, let's just say he's created this National Security Commission on Artificial Intelligence. In 2018, the NSCAI is chaired by Eric Schmidt, former CEO of Google's parent company, Alphabet. That's a scary sounding company right there by itself, Alphabet. I don't even want to look them up. That's how scary they are. Which is vice chaired by former Deputy Secretary of Defense Robert O. Work, who is also the former CEO of the Center for a New American Security, a think tank now led by John McCain's former foreign policy advisor and Joe Biden's former deputy national security advisor. So this is already a pretty good group of people. It gets worse, though, who are part of this National Security Commission. So former advisor for Joe Biden as well. So, you know, this guy's kind of been on both sides of the fence. He doesn't care about left and right. Trust me. When you're that high up, you don't care anymore. The NSCAI's commissioners also include the first CEO of In-Q-Tel. the venture capitalist arm of the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA. That's scary. Let's go back and read that again. The NSCIA commissioners also include the first CEO of In-Q-Tel, the venture capitalist arm of the Central Intelligence Agency. Did anybody know that the CIA had a venture capitalist arm? That doesn't seem like it does anything good. I don't think they're out there, creating positive businesses with triple bottom line. I can't see the CIA getting involved in anything that isn't, the worst of the worst. Moving on. The current CEO of In-Q-Tel, so not only does it have the first CEO of In-Q-Tel, but also the current CEO of In-Q-Tel, also part of this commission. The CEO of Oracle, I don't know what Oracle is. I think I've heard of it. Oracle. I don't know. Should I look it up? I'm going to look it up. Why not? We got time. This is a longer, see, this is where it would be so easy. Now I already forgot how to spell that. I have to go back to the other page. Oracle is O-R-A-C-L-E. That should be easy to remember. O-R-A-C-L-E. Let's see what it is. Integrated Cloud Applications and Platform Services. Okay, so it's another tech guy. Cloud services. I don't like those clouds. They just don't seem, there's something up with those clouds. The CEO of Amazon Web Services. So there you go. Of course, Amazon has to be in here too. You've got Google in here. You've got In-Q-Tel. You've got now a CEO of Amazon Web Services. And here's the next one. A Microsoft executive and representatives from Google and the Pentagon. Wow. Imagine the round table of this. Imagine all these people sitting around a table at the National Security Commission for AI. This is a scary group. The NSCAI is essentially the military, the intelligence community, and Silicon Valley coming together to plan what the United States needs to do in order to avoid losing its technological advantage over China in terms of artificial intelligence as we move towards the fourth industrial revolution created by AI. So that's what it's all about. That is the National Security Commission on Artificial Intelligence. Moving on. Through a Freedom of Information Act request, the Electronic Privacy Information Center acquired a May 2019 National Security Commission for Artificial Intelligence presentation entitled Chinese Tech Landscape Overview. The presentation discusses where China has an advantage and how the United States can overcome that advantage. The United States is leading in the creation of AI technologies, but it is lagging behind China in the adoption stage. The NSCAI worries that if the United States does not catch up to the adoption stage, China will dominate AI for many decades as they export their technology around the world, while the United States does not. Silicon Valley's bottom lines will be hurt forever, while the Pentagon and the CIA will lose their technological advantage over Chinese military and intelligence. Such concerns have long been voiced, which is why the NSCAI was created and why they are joint military intelligence centers. A lot of what the NSCAI document says needs to be done to stop this from happening right now. Okay, hang on. I read that wrong. Sorry. It was getting good and I fucked up. Let me just go back. A lot of what the Nscai document says needs to be done to stop this is happening right now, thanks to the current COVID-19 crisis. A plan to reshape the economy existed before this pandemic to combat the threat of Chinese market dominance in AI. As the United States' ability to develop and implement technology is necessary to keep an edge on China in national defense, security, and industry. So that is crazy how no matter what, you're moving towards an AI future, whether you like it or not, it seems, who's creating the technology? Is it the Chinese or the Americans? That's the battle here. That's the struggle, is who's going to really be the AI giant of the future. This is going to determine who continues to run the world, maybe if it be the US or a new, world leader, a new, heavyweight champion, if you will, in the world with China. So this is... But why can't they just not do this? This is the part that I don't get. Why can't we just not do any of it? Isn't technology good enough right now? Honestly, I think you could go back to the technology that existed in 1990, and I'd be happy with that. Let's just all go back to 1990 and forget about everything else that's ever happened since then. Forget Instagram, forget the internet, forget YouTube, forget having a cell phone, forget even using debit cards. Really, in 1990, people still walked around with cash. You had a telephone. If you were like a rich guy, you could drive around in your Mercedes convertible with a car phone in there, the size of a fucking shoebox. But yeah. Why can't we just not do this stuff? That's the other thing, is that's never an option. Can't do that. We have to do it. Well, why do we have to? That's the main question I have. Moving on. This is a really good article, and I'm just ruining it by talking over it. So, next paragraph. In September 2000, the project for the New American Century, which is a neoconservative think tank, for anybody who didn't know that. I did know that, by the way. Released a report which suggested a catastrophic and catalyzing event like a new Pearl Harbor was necessary for neoconservatives to achieve their goal of promoting American empire. 1 year later, the fall of the World Trade Center provided this opportunity. 3 days later, Congress voted to authorize the president to use military force against nations, organization, or persons he determined planned, authorized, committed, or aided the terrorist attacks that occurred on September 11th, 2001. Barbara Lee was the single member of Congress in either chamber to vote against the open-ended law. Political leaders were immediately beating the drums of war. The Defense Department's Office of Special Plans, in conjunction with a secret Pentagon unit, juxtaposed selective information to suggest a connection between Saddam Hussein, Al-Qaeda, and weapons of mass destruction to justify the invasion of Iraq to the American public, when in fact, such a connection was unlikely. 2 decades later, we can recognize that the regime change wars have left military families and entire countries economically divided. 9/11 has also permanently changed how we go about our lives. We have given up much privacy and freedom in exchange for desired security. It is not unfathomable to believe the events could have been capitalized on to achieve foreign policy goals, benefit arms and oil companies, and justify the expansion of the surveillance state. Likewise, through believing the coronavirus is a plandemic seems far-stretched, we can nonetheless acknowledge how global technocrats are exploiting it to erode our civil liberties and support big technology capitalists. Wow. That was a great paragraph. That was amazing. I'd like to read that again. Um, well, certain parts, just the thing too about 9/11, people say, what does 9/11 have to do with anything that's happening now? Oh, it has a lot to do. Don't think it doesn't. 9/11 prepared the world for what's happening right now. If you think that being able to just, censor and lie and have the media, spreading, you know, misleading the public, a lot of the things that are happening, we've been prepared for it by 9/11. Without 9/11, in a world prior to 9/11, if somebody had come along and said, you have to close your business and we're going to keep Walmart and Costco open, you can goddamn well guarantee people would have stood up against that. In the post 9/11 world, where we're basically, the people of North America are suffering from battered wife syndrome because we got backhanded so fucking badly on 9/11 that we don't question anything anymore. That's basically what it is. So I do think that 9/11 has had a major impact on what's happening today, because we never even would have stood for the fucking shit in the first place. But now we're all pussies because we believe that, planes can make buildings implode neatly into their own footprint at the speed of gravity. Because the truth has been killed. 9/11 killed truth. Moving on. The Freedom of Information Act document identifies structural obstacles in American society and the economy that account for America's lag in adopting AI technology in comparison to China. China does not have American legacy systems, that is, cultural norms such as individual car ownership, being able to see a human doctor in person, privacy laws, Food and Drug Administration approval. Okay, Food and Drug Administration approval. That's a legacy system? Wow, that's scary. And so on. In China, there are not enough doctors for the entire population, so that has caused China to adopt AI medicine platforms faster than the United States. According to the Nscai, the American legacy system of seeing a doctor in person is what needs to change for the United States to keep up with China in technological development and support Silicon Valley. The Nscai would naturally applaud conditions that would incentivize the development of AI technology and normalize this new culture. So, there we go. I mean, it makes sense that, you'd have to, there's so many people there, but I guess all these new policies, it's all so that we can have 10 billion people, 12 billion, 14 billion people in the world. I mean, why stop there? Let's have 30 billion people in the world. I don't know. Doesn't sound like a good idea to me. Let's kill all the animals and let's just have as many people as possible and let's track them all with AI and make sure that they all stay safe and don't have viruses and that they can all live forever. That's what we want. Yeah, sure it is. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants you to live forever. They want you to die now. They want you to die yesterday. So put on your fucking mask. Moving on. We should be wary of opportunities, crisis, in a time to consider the common good and look past our individual self-interests. It is tempting to submit to the experts and accept their instructions, no matter how incoherent. However, we must consider who these experts are and what their motivations are. 9/11 changed the world forever. The internet has ceased to be a place where people have free and equal access to information. Instead, it has become clear that it is a place where our information is taken from us at the cost of our use. Security measures for travel are not going to be removed. Once something is built in a crisis, it is not unbuilt by our political and economic leaders, because they decide what a crisis is, what is necessary, and who the expert technocrats are. While it might be possible to get used to some of the new conditions and regulations we face today, the idea that we could be facing an Orwellian erosion of civil liberties, as drastic as this might appear, should at least be given consideration for preventative purposes. We must remain cognizant of the fact that returning to our prior lifestyle could be rendered more difficult by global technocrats and certain capitalists if too much power and control is blindly granted to them. Oh, how well said was that? Oh my God. This is why I read stuff that other people write, because if I tried to put these thoughts together, it would sound like junk. But Patrick T. Kennedy, the master's student in political theory at Carleton University, oh my God, I really enjoyed this article. This is amazing. I'm so glad this was sent to me in a mysterious email yesterday. So thank you, whoever that is. Yeah, and that was today's show. Thank you very much for listening to Lockdown Radio. Have a good day. Bye.